A man dies in his home. Hours later, he wakes up and describes a valley of fire and ice. A physician collapses with fever. He's unconscious for 42 hours. He comes back describing 7 hells and 5 heavens. A young woman falls into a coma for 9 days. She returns claiming she knows the date of her own death. And an art professor in Paris follows shadowy voices down a hallway. They tear him apart. 4 people, 4 centuries. All of them saw heaven, all of them saw hell. None of them expected what they found. These 4 individuals all reported vivid scenes of heaven and hell. They all made radical life changes afterward. But the most striking thing is what they have in common. In every case, where they were taken matched something inside them. The hellish realms weren't random. The heavenly ones weren't rewards. Something was being uncovered. 18th century scientist Emanuel Swedenborg spent decades mapping exactly this, a spiritual world where what we love determines where we end up. (700 AD), an Anglo-Saxon man, father, husband, landowner, suffers an illness. He dies. Hours later, he revives and tells an astonishing story. While his body lay still, Drethelm woke to a luminous presence, a radiant, shining being. He got up and followed, leaving his body behind. Together they entered a broad, deep valley, raging flames on one side, icy storms on the other. Souls were tossed between them, seeking relief and finding none. Drethelm was sure he was witnessing hell, but his guide said no, this was not hell. Hellfire means the urge to do the evils prompted by love for oneself and the world. This hellish fire or heat changes into an intense cold when warmth flows in from heaven. Then the people there shiver as though they had feverish chills and are in inner torment. This is because of their absolute opposition to the divine, and heaven's warmth, which is divine love, snuffs out the warmth of hell. This is what causes the cold, the shivering, and the pain. It also then brings about darkness there, and folly and confusion. From the valley, they descended into real darkness. Demons, a pit, souls cast downward. His guide vanished, and the demons turned toward him. Then, a light behind him. His guide returned and led him out. They emerged on top of a vast wall, looking down into a meadow full of flowers, warmth, and joyful spirits. The air was sweet. Drethelm thought he had finally reached heaven. His guide said, no, not yet. They moved towards something brighter still, but the guide stopped him. This was as far as he could go. Then the guide explained what he had seen. The valley of fire and ice held souls still being stripped of what opposed heaven in them. Not damned, just not ready yet. The pit was hell, and the souls there had chosen it. Spirits who are absorbed in evil resist strenuously and virtually tear themselves away from the Lord. They are drawn by their evil, by hell that is, as though it were a rope. And because they are drawn and want to follow because of their love of evil, it follows that they freely cast themselves into hell. The meadow was for souls who had embraced goodness but still needed preparation before heaven itself. 3 regions, each one shaped by what ruled the people in it. (1739), Germany. George de Benneville, a nobleman turned country doctor, collapsed with fever. He was unconscious for 42 hours. His family made plans for his funeral. But during those 42 hours, de Benneville never felt more alive. Two beings met him, guardian angels. They told him to have courage. He was going to see how God deals with evil. They led him through 7 habitations of the damned. He heard weeping, gnashing of teeth, lamentations. He could make out souls twisted and deformed by their own hatred. He saw someone he knew, reached for him, and was blocked by an invisible barrier. He could not help. Then, just before the horror overwhelmed him, a new presence entered. A multitude of angels, and at their center, he believes it was Jesus Christ, radiating light. The screams stopped. De Benneville watched as the tortured souls were lifted, freed. After the ones there who had been devastated or purged have been comforted with the hope that they will receive help, the Lord takes them up into heaven. So he takes them from a condition of shadow, which is one of ignorance, into a condition of light, which is one of enlightenment and therefore renewal, and accordingly into a joy that touches their innermost depths. The light they come into is real and is a kind of light that illuminates not only their eyes, but also their minds. The extent to which it restores them can be seen from the opposite state, from which they were freed. This is what the first stage of enlightenment and therefore renewal is like for people who are coming out of desolation. De Benneville was lifted higher, through 5 celestial mansions, each more radiant than the last. Everything around him exuded unconditional love. He had witnessed the full arc. Souls consumed by evil, broken open, and then restored. Where they ended up depended on what they were willing to receive. (1848), New York. 25-year-old Marietta Davis fell into a coma for 9 days. While her body lay still, her mind was sharper than ever. A guide showed her heaven, radiant, joyful, full of loved ones that she recognized. But the guide warned her, she would also have to see the worst. The light dissolved. Marietta found herself in subterranean darkness, immersed in gloom. Her guide was gone. The scene shifted. She found herself in a world full of glimmering things. Spirits dressed in fine clothes, decked in jewelry, surrounded by priceless objects. Everything shone with a fierce, unbearable glow. But something was wrong. She plucked a piece of fruit from a tree. It burned her hand. She smelled a flower. The scent caused her pain. She reached for water. It was molten lead. She could hear cruel laughter, cursing, sarcasm. These beautiful people were ugly inside. A woman approached her, someone she had known in life. She told Marietta that this was a realm of spirits who cared only for themselves and their own pleasures. They were ruled by greed and superficiality, content to live in their illusions. Then a man joined them. He asked Marietta to leave. Her presence was breaking the shared illusion, forcing the spirits around them to see what their world actually was. But then, compelled somehow, he began to explain. The nature of evil here was magnetic, addictive. Every soul in this place wanted to remain. He wasn't confused about where he was. He knew, and he stayed anyway. Swedenborg, writing a century earlier, encountered this same attitude. I have heard some hellish people saying that they knew and recognized that what they were doing was evil and what they were thinking was false, but that they could not resist the gratification. This moved their thoughts to see evil as good and falsity as true. Marietta prayed to be saved. She was lifted out and returned to a heavenly realm. Her guide told her she must go back to her life. Her spirit was not yet ready for heaven. She had been given another chance to examine what ruled her and prepare. Paris, 1985. An American art professor was rushed to the hospital with a perforated intestine. The pain was unbearable. He told his wife goodbye. Then, the pain vanished. Howard Storm rose from the bed, feeling better than he ever had. But no one could hear him. No one could see him. Voices called from the hallway. "Follow us," they said. With no one else to turn to, he went with them. The figures were indiscernible, obscured by fog. They dodged his questions. Every time he pressed them, they grew more furious. He doesn't know how long they walked. Minutes, days. Finally, he refused to go farther. He stopped. The beings turned on him. They attacked, tearing him apart, delighting in the violence. Eventually, he gave up. Bored, the beings left him alone, discarded, destroyed. Before truth and goodness can show themselves and bring us into company with heaven's inhabitants, the evil and falsity have to unmask themselves so that we can see and recognize them, and in this way learn what is true and good. This change cannot possibly occur without a fight against the evil and falsity in us. The fight is a real one. Evil spirits stir up falsity and evil, and angels pardon it if our motive is good and instill truth. A voice rang out in the darkness. Pray. Howard didn't know how to pray. He wasn't a religious man, but the voice insisted. So he said anything he could think of. Fragments of hymns, half-remembered prayers, even the Pledge of Allegiance. The beings screamed in agony, backing away from him. He begged Jesus to save him. A radiant light appeared. Howard was lifted out of the darkness and into a different world entirely. Loving beings surrounded him. They showed him his life without judgment. They showed him a possible future. They answered his questions. They told him he had to return. He had work to do. All four survived. All four changed. Drithelm gave away his property and became a monk. De Benneville moved to Pennsylvania, built a school, treated anyone who needed care. Marietta Davis spent the rest of her life sharing what she had seen. Howard Storm became a pastor. But Storm said something that cuts to the center of this. He knew the beings who attacked him were his kind of people. They shared the same self-absorption, the same indifference to others that had defined his life up to that point. The difference was that they had already been stripped down to their ruling love, and it was destruction. Storm got the chance to change his. Swedenborg had a word for this stripping down. He called it devastation. The word sounds violent, but Swedenborg meant it literally. The spiritual world doesn't invent our inner character. It uncovers it. So in order that we may gain either heaven or hell, after death we are first taken to the world of spirits, where either the union of the good and the true takes place for people who are to be raised into heaven, or the union of the evil and the false for people who are to be cast into hell. No one in heaven or hell is allowed to have a divided mind, to understand one thing and intend something else, So for good people, the false elements are taken away, and they are given truths suited and fitted to their virtue. While for evil people, truths are taken away, and they are given false elements suited and fitted to their vice. These 4 people caught a glimpse of that process, but they came back and did the work here. The question Swedenborg keeps returning to isn't what happens after death. It's what's being built inside you now. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that episode of the NDE Files. This show is produced by the not-for-profit Swedenborg Foundation. If you want to support us and the creation of this program, consider becoming a member of this channel. You'll get some cool perks and help know that you're spreading this content out for the next person to find. Thanks.